Hey guys, I'm John Barklow, and today I'm going to talk to you about building a whitetail clothing system. Whitetail hunting poses some unique problems that we don't often face when we're in the big game mountains. When we're building a whitetail system, we really have to build for two parts of the hunt, what I call the commute and the sit. And so unlike a big game hunter, once the whitetail hunter gets in the woods and climbs in that tree or gets in that ground blind, they're not going to be able to move around to create a lot of body heat. So we really are very reliant on our clothing system to do that for us. Now, just like any technical clothing system, we want to have layers so that we can build versatility into that system specifically to meet those two unique parts of the whitetail hunt. Now, any clothing system starts with the base layer. So the base layer is the layer that goes directly over top of your skin. All this base layer is intended to do is move moisture off your skin. And specifically for whitetail hunting, because a lot of it takes place in colder weather, we want that moisture on our skin to be pulled off with that base layer and moved onto the other layers. Now that can be synthetic or wool. It's really shooter's choice. Just make sure that whatever it is works well and is not cotton, because cotton is going to hold a lot of moisture. And all you're going to do is, if you do sweat, walk in your tree stand, you're going to shiver and it's going to push you down. Now, on top of that base layer, we want to build this system, like I said, for the commute, but we also want to build it as a system, whereas what I walk in, I'll keep on and then layer over top once I get to the tree. So how we do that is with, say, a pair of soft shell pants and what I call active insulation. So active insulation is going to be insulation that traps a little bit of body heat, but also allows me to expel heat and moisture. So as I'm walking to my stand, I'm not going to overheat. The one thing we want to try to do, especially out west where some of these walks and hikes to tree stands can be long distances, is we want to try to not sweat. Now we can do that a couple different ways. We can manage our pace, of course, but if you're like me, you probably woke up a little late, you're chasing the sunrise, you're kind of rushing to get to your tree. And so a lot of times we do get there and we're a little overheated. That's what the base layer is going to do. And that active insulation is also going to allow us to dump heat while we're climbing up into the tree so that we don't overheat and oversweat the system. Now, I'm a huge proponent of wind stopper or any layers that are going to block wind. Why is that? Because our body is the best source of heat we have. And like I said, unlike a big game hunter that can climb a mountain, walk around the glassy knob, do jumping jacks or push-ups, once the whitetail hunter gets in the stand, they're not going to be able to do any of that if they want to be successful. And so with a clothing system, if my body is the heat source, just like a home, you want to build these different layers to slow the escape of heat through the system. And one way to do that is with wind stopper. Now, I like to incorporate several layers of wind stopper to act as almost baffles within my clothing system to, again, slow that escape of heat. So I have my base layer on, I have a pair of soft shell pants, I have an active insulation layer, and oftentimes I will have a wind stopper vest and even sometimes a pair of wind stopper shorts or pants. And this is often what I will commute to my tree stand in. When I had my whitetail hunt in Iowa several years ago, I was actually riding an e-bike several miles to where I would park the e-bike and then from there maybe walk up to another half mile to get to my tree stand. And so I didn't want to sit there and keep dressing and undressing. I wanted to be really efficient. And so depending on if it was a morning sit or an evening sit, I would have base layer, active insulation, and wind stopper in the morning, and maybe in the afternoon I wouldn't have the wind stopper because the temps were a little warmer, but it's still trying to serve the same purpose. So now we get to the base of our tree, and so now the commute part of the hunt is over, i.e. where we're actively moving and generating a lot of body heat that we're trying to manage. Once we get in the tree, now we want to put insulative layers over top, because now we want to be really stingy with our body heat, because again, we're not going to be able to move around. So this is where we're going to start putting on the fleeces, the more insulated, puffy insulation to trap and protect us and keep that body heat bottled up. This is where my second layer of windstopper often comes in. So I have one layer of windstopper that I've kind of worn that's really thin and light that I'm using to commute into my stand and manage my body core temperature. Then when I get there and climb up in the tree and kind of get established, or even sometimes at the base of the tree, I'm gonna put on these warm protective outer layers, and that is going to block wind. What does wind do? Wind causes convective heat loss. Wind strips body heat away from us, and even a slight breeze in a tree stand is enough to sometimes chill us and drive our core temp down and push us out of the woods. That's not what we want. So we want to make sure that we get in and we bundle up, and now we're still, now we're static, now we're doing the sit portion, and now we are completely reliant on our body heat and the clothing system that we've continued to layer throughout the course from leaving the truck to getting in the tree. We've layered this clothing system on top of each other. Now, when you do this, when you're trying this at home, when you're test fitting this system, you want to make sure that everything fits well and that you can still draw your bow, you can still climb the tree, that you still have full range of motion. The one mistake I see a lot of people make, and I had friends make this mistake many years ago when I was trying to educate them on the value of a technical whitetail system, is that they thought that if they just kept adding more and more and more layers on top, that intuitively they would be warmer. And the reality is that's not true. And so with a technical whitetail system with just say 3 to 5 layers, depending on the temperature, you can be much warmer than somebody who's trying to pack 7, 8, 9 layers. Partly that's because when you put too many clothes on, it constricts blood flow. It certainly cuts down on range of motion. And oftentimes when people have that much clothing on, they choose to walk to their tree stand in that. They oversweat the system, and then they sit there and are chilled because their clothing system they've assembled can't manage that moisture. So when you're building your whitetail system, consider building your system for the commute and the sit, i.e. building versatility in your whitetail system. I think that these principles are going to keep you warm and focused on stand, and hopefully allow you to have a lot more fun and success in the whitetail woods.